So now hopefully too, this will help you understand a lot of what Austin works with. So what I'm doing here, I normally do not come underneath the system to a lift. Most of the work is either if someone presents on their one side, I'm on the opposite side, whatever from this vertebrae. However, the whole class is about mass in opposition to the floor. So what I'm doing is I'm just lightly underneath her pelvis this way and doing, it's a lift, but you know me, it's with the rotation. So my lift, the intention is actually going down the femur so the knee presents. So I've propped her with a deflated ball, just enough to give her system a bit more roll to it than she would normally have if it was just knee on top of knee.
Okay.
What's nice about using the egg balls, and I wish they're more available in the US, I don't know if I have to become a distributor or not, it's not my life experience, but the way the ball stabilizes balance, because they're the shape of an egg versus a round ball, where if a round ball, you're always going to have to want to stabilize your balance first, so it really inhibits the learning. But the ball reflects movement so much more than, let's say, a towel or any kind of other prop piece of foam. And I spend hours doing this kind of lesson on her son. Are you comfortable?
I have all my balls right now, just inflated like this much, laying across my hallway, because my puppy needs some strength in her back legs. And they sell a veterinary one where you can try to put them on top of it. I looked at Kurt and I'm like...
Well, just so you know, there's no way right now getting these egg balls in the United States of America.
No.
What?
They're out of Italy, and it's like,
Nobody's imported them.
sell them on Amazon, do something. So he said he'll give me what I need because of my enthusiasm, but it's like, dude,
I was thinking of the peanut balls.
they're not the same.
No. I was
Yeah.
like, I've seen them. They had them at my hospital. The peanut ball, not the egg ball.
Yeah, I have yellow ones. My blue one is actually silver. It was the more heavy duty
Yeah.
one.
I talked to him, I said, I want to be your U.S. spokesperson, but they don't get it. They try and sell them as an exercise ball.
Instead of like a therapy thing.
Yeah.
Strangely, this works really well on my husband from underneath like that. Sometimes you can go at him from the top and it's just like, we've been here for 15 minutes, we haven't moved anything, but if you do that.
So you feel right there, your back totally spasming out? So when I don't normally work with muscles, though technically I do when I'm dealing with, let's say, cerebral palsy and stuff, but if I touch even, and as you watch me probably right now, you know, it looks like the paint's drying, but if I'm touching or moving something in such a way where I'm feeling a muscle spasm, now she just, quote, I wouldn't say she injured herself, but she did a movement that her body was like, yeah, I don't think so. I cannot touch someone in a speed that is going to create that kind of, quote, spasm, activation, however you want to look at it. So, and this is what I think is really underappreciated, especially with like cerebral palsy or right after someone had a stroke or whatever, when they've had just blunt force trauma, you know, brain injury, you know. You have to touch the system where it's the safest, and they know they're not going to be, because even though this table is 3.5 feet, I think, by, what is it, 3.5 or 3 feet? measured it 15 times, you'd know. By 6 feet. And it's built with like 4x4s. It's not going anywhere, but if you're working on someone where their opposition to gravity at that moment is severely traumatized or non-existent, you have to work with them in a way that this is gravity. And by the way, my theories of rotation are brilliant and really should be used by NASA, because when you have no gravity, there's no rotation. And that's why they go into such system failure so fast. Because when they turn a screw, the screw turns them. You'll see the astronauts float around the screwdriver. And because there is no rotation. So when they look at it, so when your son throws a baseball, you know what I mean? The amount of rotation has to go through it. But in space, to throw anything, you just go, and again, that action to the reaction, that's pure Newton's principle, and it's just going through in that same line. So when I float through space, so all I have to do is touch a wall, and I'm immediately going to react to that touch and oppose it. But I don't have to do any kind of rotations because I'm not going to fall. There's no gravity. So that rotation has to be present or worked on in the human system when they're physically on Earth, because that's the only way that they can move through gravity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And I'm such an idiot at science in grade school. This makes so much sense. I just wasn't good with fictitious examples. Even out in Mars. I'm not in Mars, don't understand Mars.
Yeah.
This is what I understand, like an algebra widget. What's a widget? Tell me, give me a product name, but my brain would just get stuck on the facts versus the equation.
Yeah.
I'm just too physical. And I could never do the equation because the concept of it just made sense. Like, I didn't need you to give me some
Choose the opposite.
invert the fraction to find the part of something. I was like, it's just this much. It just makes sense
Well, see, when Pat
for math.
when Pat and Dean were painting defense at different rates, and I'm like, well, how tall's Pat? How tall's the, I want the,
Every year we go over our budget and figure stuff out, and we'll sit down and I'm like, and then we should do this instead and that and that, and Adam's like, we didn't even do the numbers. I said, math is just intuitive to me.
yeah.
I can do math. There are a lot of things I can't do, but math I can do.
Not just the opposite.
Well, I do movement.
Yeah.
Ah, now you feel a difference right here versus, okay, so feel here, and it's very subtle. So I'm going to go up the whole spine again. Ah, feel here, feel the difference? And then I'm going to keep going. See, it's just, and now here it's just
Her shoulder didn't move at all when you touched right there.
left. So now I've just done that move twice with no improvement, or not enough of an improvement to my mind. Now, yes, I could probably do it 20 times, but why? So I'm still totally contacting with her bum. What I'm doing is pressing up in the bum and down here. There's no difference than what I was doing with Arlie, trying to bend her spine through here and lift her bum up. It's just minute. This is just at a 1/4 inch versus I was throwing her feet actually over her level of her head. But I don't think that Rachel would appreciate that I did this to her at this moment.
Yeah.
Besides, she's doing everything right now probably to stay awake. But if you fall asleep right now, it still works, so you're good. So even when I'm coming down like this, it's very subtle, but it's with the intention of the twist as I'm bringing this system up this way. which is a pre-curl. Now this way, I can go this way with it or this, but I'm not doing this. That's what I'm trying to. And sometimes this depends on the person. Rachel is really skinny, and I can work with her differently. If someone was heavier, I should say, or more like a man, barrel-chested, you know, or possibly your husband, you might not be doing this. It might be a more of this kind of rotation, or where you have to go more here with the system, and this, go into those movements with the tush. But here what I'm doing, even this, is still like this versus, again, an up or down. So with that, I'm just gonna go back to see already now the changes in the tush. Now, do you feel how your tush moves differently, or even though it's very subtle? I don't know. Now she does.
You can see it.
Now again, this movement here is a very subtle rotation. You're going into the iliac crest.
So you like
Yeah,
this? So
if this was a gyro, well, I'm in the gyro now and rotating the gyro through. But see, if I didn't have my hand here, see the difference in the movement? Versus just being here and doing the subtle rotations underneath the bone. There we go. And there, in this example, is your pre-curl. So right there now, her back started to arch. Just that subtle. Which we were told not to do last night. Belly dances had that duck bum, but the duck bum is a good thing. Never heard it called a duck's bum. But it catches your veils. Have your Tricia out.
Catches you.
So see how I'm doing very similar by lifting underneath the tush and putting a little bit of healthy touch up here. Now my idea of healthy, I'm still going lighter than touching. Maybe I would squish a rose petal at this point. Before, for the most part, my touch was like how to touch a rose and not lose it. Like here, that's. I'm totally going for a ride. As she breathes in and out, I feel it, and I'm literally just going with that rotation of the lung cavity. But here, just again, because I was working on the arch, not only am I pushing into the arch, but I'm really going for that subtle stretch. That's my intention in a large scale, but literally I'm just... And again, I'm going to take my hand out of her tush and see the difference. I can't even, to push it into here now, is much more towards the arch versus if she's here and being able to do it.
We were finishing packing at my in-laws yesterday, and I put her down, and she screamed so loud she woke up my father-in-law. And he's like, "Is she okay?" I was like, "Yeah, she's just throwing a fit." He's like, "Can I pick her up?" I said, "Sure." He picks her up, and she grinned from ear to ear at me. And I was like, "Yeah, I know. You were just fine on the floor playing. But you're happier if somebody's holding you."
So now I'm just working with the shift from her tush down through all her top ribs, now that they're all starting to respond. The reason they're responding now is because the lower rib cage is released and noddings. Now, if she wasn't so injured, I'd probably go here now and work on her rotation of bringing the spine back, but she doesn't need that. I mean, even though I'm going back and doing very similar moves that I started out with, when a person is already starting to integrate and reflect, they're already moving so much different, so it's not the same thing anymore. It looks the same, but
On an adult, is it easier if they're asleep so that they're not trying to help and mess with it?
yes and no. I had this big old guy, he came in, he had foot surgery, fixed my foot. I'm like, I don't know, you had foot surgery. I don't know what they cut, didn't cut, you know. I swear he didn't even hit the deck, he was out like a light for an hour. He'd come, wake up, I don't notice any changes. Okay, bye. I didn't notice anything if you've been asleep for, asleep. I could have gone in the back room and done accounting.
You didn't
And
notice any
charged him.
changes? Because I was in the back.
Yeah. He was with his wife, so I couldn't pull that trick. But anyway, second time, same thing. Third time, I finally asked him, are you noticing anything? Because he was coming back. Oh yeah, my foot's all fixed. This is probably my last lesson. But you know, I'm back to hiking, everything, it's great. So I'm like, okay, so you can make changes. Which I already knew because I worked on my kids so much while they were sleeping. And I could see the difference. But, and I hope this is what Rachel's seeing, even if she's half conscious, at least she's got the tape. But this is just a wonderful little thing she could just do with
I didn't know, like-
her kids or her son. I mean, you can do with Arlie while she's nursing this kind of movement.
But like with type A people, if when they go to sleep, so they're not trying to help you and mess with it. If
You
it's
know what though,
easier
but they have to learn to do that.
relax.
Just like her son has some pretty decent seizures. Now, if it's a big one, I back off. But I don't stop. I don't feel, I mean, not like, I just figured he's got to learn to work through it. Now, they found that if they stimulate him a certain way, in some cases, more so daddy, but it's, you know, can talk him almost out of going into a big seizure. So they're already finding that in some instances they can redirect it. And I just think that's the same. That's why, like if you had a big fight with your husband, you know, I want you to discuss it. Not that I care to listen to it per se, but you should be able to be angry though and still move and breathe. It's the people that can't are the ones that go postals. And she just posted an interesting article about people going postals also being on meds, you know, some heavy duty psycho meds. Well, what happens is the psychotics, a lot of the painkillers like oxycodone, I'm telling you, don't come to me for a lesson if you're on that stuff, because neurologically what it does to your body just does not make sense to the system. So if you already have mental issues and you start taking something else that's dealing, let's say, and restricting movements instead of assisting with movements, and if you don't think pain pills are restrictive, then tell that to every person who's now constipated up the wazoo.
Right.
You know, if your internal organs aren't working, guess what? So aren't your lungs, your heart's not functioning properly.
Right.
So I want that person to be, why can't you be upset and learn from a lesson? You know, that's why I think this work would be great for post-traumatic stress. But when you start mixing drugs or alcohol into the occasion, more so drugs, you're going to get a neuro response that's just atypical of natural movement patterns. That's why you can't give a kid oxycodone. They won't be able to crawl. They just are physically unable.